I've always dreamed of having a robot mower, but up until a few years ago, you needed to use a boundary wire to keep it in your yard. And even then, it would ping pong around like the original robot vacuums. Not very useful. But the last few years, there have been lots of boundaryless robot mowers coming out. Not only that, they can mow your lawn in straight lines, making sure that no blade of grass goes uncut. In my ever-continuing quest to find the perfect mower, this season, I'm testing out the Mammotion YUKA Mini. How well has it been performing? How does it hold up against the other two mowers that I've tested in the past? I'm Wanderer 001. Let's get into it. Starting things off, some general specs of the YUKA Mini. First being, it is actually broken up into several different number variants, which are battery sizes, meaning how large of a lawn that you can actually cut, as well as two letter versions. You have your S version, which will cut lower and has a lower maximum, and then your H version, which what I would classify, at least in the Northeast where I am, is your more normal cutting heights. The overall size of the YUKA Mini itself is 20.7 inches long, with a width at its widest point at 16.3 inches and has a height again at its highest point of 11.1 inches. It also weighs a total of 23 pounds. So in all, not that bad for what you're getting robot mower wise. But let's start to take a look around the robot itself. We're gonna swing things to the front here. The first thing I want to point out is the YUKA Mini does not have a bump guard like some of the other Mammotion mowers have. This is purely based on a dual camera system, which is, as you might imagine, powered by AI, which they're calling UltraSense AI Vision, which delivers L3 autonomous driving level compute power, performing 5 trillion operations a second. What does that mean for you? Well, it means those two lenses on the front help this thing steer around your yard, avoid things that are in your yard, and help it keep within the boundaries of your backyard. There also is an LED strip right there on the front so that when things get a little dark or you want to mow at night, you can do that because, again, this is a dual system using RTK and the cameras. That light is important to help keep it pointed where it needs to go. The dual camera system can also be used to navigate your map should your RTK signal get too weak. And the AI smarts in here can detect and avoid up to 200 objects in real time, meaning they kind of have a library of things that this should be looking for to avoid. Now, the LED light strip that I mentioned before is made up of several nodes and does get very bright, so you can, one, watch this go around at night and do its thing, but you can also look through the camera and see what's going on, and the LEDs also help you keep track of where it is. Up on the front, which might be a little tricky to see, but there are actually what I call grass combers, and I like these because, one, they help straighten up the grass in front of it to make sure that everything is standing up nice and tall so that when you go over it with the mower, things actually get cut. As we bring the top of our robot into view, up front here, this is our camera hub. Here we have an LED indicator for our RTK signal strength. So right now it's green, letting me know 100%, we're good. Just past that is the on-robot rain sensor. I've tested out other robots that did not have this on the robot itself and was disappointed with the fact that it could be raining where I lived, but the rain data that it was getting through the application said that there was no rain, so the mower was going out in the rain. Did not like that. This is a must for a robot mower. You want to have an on-device rain sensor. Just past that, we have our security key. You do get an extra one of these in the box. Just know, in case that happens to snap off. Don't think it will, but just in case. Just past that, another set of LEDs letting you know that the mower is good to go. Past that, you've got a giant stop button. To hit this in an emergency situation, you can stop the mower from doing whatever it's doing. And then we're gonna swing things around. Past the stop button is your physical mow deck cut height adjuster. I actually prefer physical ones on the device themselves than the one that you would have in an application. When you have something in an application, that is a motor or a spring that can go out on you, which is problematic. In theory, it's nice to be able to adjust it from the app, but I'd rather come out and adjust it manually. On the S version of the Yuka Mini, your cut height will be between 0.8 and 2.4 inches. On the H series, which is what I have, you have between 2 and 3.5 inches. Also, we have several buttons. We have our power, our start, our go home, and our mow. If this mower is stopped for whatever reason, manually by hitting the stop button or through the application, you will have to come out and press a sequence of buttons in order to either get it to start cutting again or to actually go back to the charging station. So charging station would be start home, cut again would be start, and the grass icon. And then all the way in the back here, we've got our do not block or cover area. This is where the RTK actual sensor information is located. Along the side of the Yuka Mini, you could see a little bit of hangover from the front. This is kind of a TPU material, so rubberized thermoplastic bumper, as well as these rubberized thermoplastic side guards to help prevent scratches on the main body of the robot. You also have on the front/side these LED indicator lights, which I kind of turn off because I don't want people knowing that I have a robot hanging around doing things. To the back, we have our wheels. We'll talk about that in a moment. But here, this is something I want to point out to you. This is the charge mechanism for this robot. There is one on each side. And of the 3 different charge styles for robot mowers that I've tested, I actually do not mind this one. I was concerned about this one at first because it's kind of exposed and the contacts on the actual base station are exposed as well. But I have tested this because I have been beating this up. It's kind of why it's looking the way it is. I've been torture testing this, and the last run was out in the rain. And that's where I know this charge sensor, even though it's exposed to the weather, will still charge the robot mower even if it's wet. So kudos to this. It's a large enough contact sensor and on the base station that you don't have to worry about it. And I'll show you a little more about the contact sensors on the base station. Just know, charging, not going to be a problem. Now, coming back further, we're going to talk about our dual rear wheel. You're looking at from a spike to a spike here, a width of 7.5 inches. The overall wheel itself is mostly a plastic construction, and the spikes here that wrap around it are a TPU material. So again, that thermoplastic, it's going to be a little rubbery to help it kind of get better grip. But I've seen in certain situations, including terrain and or weather, that they can slip a little bit. Even though this does not go all that fast, it struggles in some areas with uneven lawns. And I think part of that is just the design of robot mowers that have the wheels kind of as a rear axle that pushes the mower forward, as opposed to the one that I tested that pulled the mower forward and were actually bigger than this. I'm not saying that it is a deal breaker, but I just want you to be aware of that. The actual grip on it, the thread pattern, if I'll call it that, is not bad. It is grippy enough, but does not hurt your lawn, even when this is making 0 turns. Unlike my first robot that would kill my lawn because of the way that the wheel treads were designed. Coming around to the back, you get a better idea of the wheel placement, as well as why you really shouldn't mow in the rain or at night, because grass will get caked up on there. This is actually what it looks like after me cleaning it up a little bit for the actual review. So, word of warning, it can, but don't. Back here, we have an IR light, which helps with the robot parking itself in the base station. We also have a plastic cover for the removable battery. This is one of the things that I really liked about this robot, is that Mammotion makes it very easy to replace the battery if you need to. You don't have to open up the top, you don't have to flip it over, you don't have to open a trap door. It's right there. 4 sets of screws, this plastic cover comes off, and you can yank the battery out. The battery for the particular Yuka Mini series that I got is a 6.1 amp battery, and it cuts my lawn, and this is not the actual size of my lawn because it doubles over itself. It cuts 3,886 feet squared in about 4.5 hours without edge cutting, but that's also including intermediate charge times. It charges twice in that time frame to get a complete cut. Coming down, we have a set of grass combs just like we had for the front, and again, because it overlaps itself while it's doing this, it helps to pull up the grass blades to make sure that everything is actually cut. Coming to the underside of the Yuka Mini, again, I left it in the state that it's currently in to be a warning / example of why not to mow in the rain or possibly consider not mowing at night. Because I know there's going to be a lot of yard people who are not happy with the way this looks. And this is just kind of a basic cleaning that I gave right before filming. Coming to the front here, we have a set of 2 dual caster wheels, which can collect grass if it's too long on both the wheel itself as well as around the hub. They're big enough to kind of float yourself over most obstacles, and you can see they're free spinning, which is nice, and they can go in all directions. I actually took down a garden plot that I had in my yard, and there's a little rut in it, probably about 1/2 inch. This powers over it, no problem at all. Coming down, you saw me kind of play with it a little bit. This has a floating deck, which will allow it to adjust to the terrain of your yard, giving you a carpet-like appearance without having to see like ruts and stuff like that, because portions of your yard might be a little uneven. You have your cutting deck, which is 7.5 inches in width and has 5 rotating razor blades. Now, do be very cautious with these. They are super sharp and they spin outward unless grass gets wrapped around them. Again, another reason to make sure your lawn is not too tall. If not, you go in there, you clean it out. The cutting deck is powered by an 88-watt motor, which has been enough to go through just about everything that I have thrown at it in the Northeast for the style of grass that we have, which is kind of thin and spindly. But I've done wet, I've done tall. My yard is not made up of completely normal spindly grass. I've got clover patches, I've got all sorts of things. And this has been able to handle it no problem. As you can see, it's battle scars everywhere. Coming to the back, you can also see the back axle and motor that push this forward. Coming back to the normal position of our robot mower, some other general specifications to think about. This is an IP6 device because, well, yes, it's meant to be out in the rain, so you don't want it to get wet and have problems. With this, you're not going to. The navigation system is a combination of the UltraSense AI Vision, which I mentioned before, which is these 2 cameras here, as well as an RTK sensor. That's going to allow it to have precise navigation, obstacle avoidance, and it does pretty well with all of those things from my testing. It actually gets into a spot that my first mower couldn't do because the RTK signal was too weak and over under some bushes. This has been able to do it very good. I've been able to get closer to those areas, no problem. Connection, you are looking at Bluetooth and Wi-Fi with the option of 4G. So you've got lots of way to talk to this to your application. RTK, mostly to help with navigation, but to see where it is on your app, you're gonna be using Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, or that 4G. Now that we've covered everything about the YUKA Mini itself, what else do we get with it? Let me show you. Right up top, we've got a quick start guide, letting us know everything that we can do. And then if we flip it over, it actually has a installation guide. So that's helpful. Right up top, we have the base station, or at least the footing for the base station. And then we have everything kind of put into these nice little boxes. So right here, this is going to be our power equipment. It even shows you right there what it is. So that's going to be power. This is our accessory kit, which has mini torque wrench. These are bolts. This is for plugging the foot to the base station down and like extra power. So I have a feeling that that was in that other box. Even give you a little cleaning brush. That's interesting. This is going to be startup guide right there. And just under that, this looks like RTK antenna. These are extra blades. Got a 6-pack of them right there. Not entirely sure what that is. This is where the RTK is right there. Letting you know that. This is probably the pole for the RTK, stuff right there. And that's the ground pole for the RTK. Oh, no, probably not. That's probably where the head of it sits. And then just under all of this is where the robot is itself. So I'll put that over there. Might be hard to see, but on either side, they're letting you know where to come in and grab this. Not gonna look great for the camera, but here we go. You've got the charging section for the base station. You saw the base station in the box itself. I just wanted to bring it out and show you one of all the actual mowers that I've had. This has actually been the smallest with a couple of unique features. First being here on the base itself, it has little cutouts so water can drip through and not pool and collect on the base station itself. Notice it's not growing grass so much as it's collecting grass from when I've done my torture testing. Coming to the back of it, it actually has little kick spots for the wheels to hit so that it knows, hey, don't go any further. I like that. That's a great feature. Up here, you could see here, here, and here. These are all IR sensors to help it park itself when it's coming back to charge. And speaking of charging, I did mention before, here are the two very large, very adjustable charging contacts for the YUKA Mini, which I really like. Again, I was concerned because they have contact points that are exposed to the elements, but you can see there's some wear and tear right there and there on them, but they are still functioning 100%. So I would say of all the base stations I've had, this is probably my second favorite, just because of the size of the footprint, as well as some of those extra features like the drainage and the ramp. But also here you can see that's riveted to give you a little more oomph to get the robot back in place in case you don't have this on completely level ground. Coming over to the RTK sensor, this is one of the unique spots, things that I like/don't like about this. First, this is one of the shortest RTK sensor tower setups that I've ever experienced. It also has an antenna instead of having everything live at the top here. And I feel having the antenna facing down, not great. I've had some connectivity issues with Wi-Fi, which we'll talk about during the setup process. But once you get this placed correctly, it's really good. The one thing I have with it is there's only a single spike in the bottom for putting this in your lawn. So of all the setups that I've tested, feels like it's the most unstable here. You can see me wiggling it. You've got holes, but they're mainly meant for mounting this to something like the side of your house or a fence. Kind of wish they had some more stability. You can go in and tap some things in there to help, but out of the box, there's just way too much wiggle for my taste. Now, as I mentioned before, this is a boundaryless robot mower. What does that mean? Well, it means one, there's a bit of a setup process for attaching the robot mower to your RTK station, as well as mapping out your yard. Let me show you what my experience was like setting this up. All right, starting with the setup, based on the IKEA-like directions, you're gonna set up the base station first, click it into place, screw some stuff in. Find the screws, they're actually in the accessories box. Everything on the opposite side of this page, which is the general directions, has A1, A4, B6. Those are going to indicate the stuff. That's why I said it's like IKEA. So first things first, we're going to come over here, mine the cardboard. I'm trying to kill grass, but you connect the top portion here, and then the underside, there are 4 screws to help keep that in place. And then you move on to putting the base station screws in to keep the base station from moving around on you. So we'll come back as soon as that's up. Once we have everything locked down, we're supposed to put the robot on here and plug it in and then do the RTK connection. But I've seen and read that you should power on the RTK first, because you set the RTK up before you actually set the robot up, or else the two don't talk to each other. So while I will put the robot on here, I'm going to move on to setting up the RTK sensor next. The RTK pole itself is pretty much assembled for you. It is broken up into couple unique parts. You've got this part right here, which separates the upper portion of the pole from the lower portion of the pole. You do have the RTK hub sensor up here, and then a antenna that plugs into it, as well as the cable that will allow you to plug it into the base station. I have found that there actually is an extra power supply, and that's if you mount the RTK sensor somewhere that's not close to the actual base station itself. And then if we come down this way, there is a pole with some screws. Again, this is if you're mounting somewhere other than close to that, where you would just spike it in the ground with this bit here that screws in. I have a good idea where I'm going to place this because I've done this a few times, so I know where I should get a good signal. So there I've got my RTK, and over this way, past all the cardboard to kill the grass, is the base station. So the cable itself that comes with the RTK sensor, it's not long enough, so thankfully Mammotion gives you extra bit of cable and then spikes and clips to keep the cable maintenance for the RTK in check. Now that we have the RTK and the robot hooked up to the base station and everything's wired up except for the Mammotion power pack there, just shy of the camera, right around here is the connection part that goes right in there. It is color coded, which I greatly appreciate, so you can see gray goes to gray, and there's even a nice little clip in there to help keep it from moving around. So that's gonna be the next step. We're gonna plug everything in and things should start up. Hard to see, green flashing light right there. Hopefully you can see. Green flash, samurai swooshy sound. The lights on the side, try and block it off. They're flashing green. Top bit there is, I'm assuming, for its detection or geolocation. That's still showing red, but I'm assuming once we set up the RTK sensor, that'll work a little better or look a little better. But now that we have the assembly portion, looks like 99% there. Next we move on to actual setup. So let's get started. Here we go. This will be setup of YUKA Mini and the RTK that come with it. So right now we're going to select add, and it's kind of letting us know what to look for. So it's kind of looking for a barcode, but it does say it's got Bluetooth. So we're gonna hit next. And there it's showing both the YUKA Mini and the RTK sensor I have right there. We're gonna add the RTK first by hitting the plus sign next to that. Like I said, I heard you should set the RTK up first before you set up the robot. So we're just gonna let that do its thing. It's gonna try and access my network settings, and we'll give that a moment to do what it does. Trying to find the internet. Come on, there we go. That's the one I want. Let's put in the password, and I'm gonna select join. Don't mind that. It is joining my IoT network. I'm actually kind of surprised that the signal is not as strong as I've seen with other RTK, because I've got a decent Wi-Fi router. So it could just be the location of that, just because it's lower to the ground than other ones that I've had. But we'll see. We'll let that load up, connect itself. All right, so it has been added successfully. All right, so it wants me to bind a robot. So maybe I read that incorrectly, but we're gonna add the YUKA Mini now. And again, this is all looking under Bluetooth. So this part of the setup is actually really easy to do. And we're just gonna let that link things up right there. Don't mind that. All right, we're gonna throw this onto my IoT network, just like I did for the RTK, and selecting join, and it is joining. Again, we'll see how the robot does. It's slightly closer. It looks like it had a problem connecting, so we're gonna give it another go. We're having it join. Hopefully things look a little better from this angle. If it doesn't join up this time, I might have to go and knock a couple things off the IoT network just so it can actually not be as congested. Yeah, okay, it's failing. Let me go knock a couple things off. We'll be back in a second. All right, we kicked a couple things off the IoT network. We'll see if that helps. Oh, it's saying the password's incorrect. Am I screwing that up? All right, give that a go again. That should be the right password. Okay, added successfully. All right, well, all right. It says they're both there. It's both connected. Okay. All right, we're gonna upgrade. So we're gonna upgrade the firmware. One click upgrade, and we'll let that go. I won't make you sit through that, but I have a feeling the robot will have an upgrade as well that it needs to go through. So we'll let it do that as well. After one of the most rage-inducing upgrade and setups that I've ever had with a robot lawnmower, I think we're actually ready to start mapping, even though right there it's saying that the charging station is not located, and we're gonna say got it. And we're just gonna create a map now, because at this point I just want to create a map. So it's kind of giving us examples of what we should do, location of everything. So all right, there it's kind of telling us locate the charging station while the robot is charging. Do not stand in front of. Oh, and it's wasn't standing in front of it, but it is. So there we go. It's kicking it out, and it says we could start mapping an area. So I'm gonna do that. All right, we kind of got this situated where we want to start. I'm gonna come in here. I'm gonna set start mapping an area. So we've got auto mapping over here in manual. I'm gonna select manual because I don't have a lot of fence line. It's showing me kind of make sure what things look like, and we're good with that. All right, so now we could start mapping. At any time I can hit that AI one. So we're just gonna start going, and it's got a controller so you can kind of go forward, move it left and right. Not quite as smooth as a controller for a video game, but I get the idea. Here, and we will back across this way. As the trees, as usually how it does. Just keep going. That's going to be some grass later. Hopefully they know how to do. There we go. Good on. I might look a little bit. I can push this on there. Not quite on this one, don't need a little space. I'm going to jump it. Get you back here, and return, and turn, and turn. Okay, I'm just going to come across this way. Okay, good. Sure, in there. Not going to lie, the controls are not the best. I wish they would stay big the entire time to make it easier to navigate around stuff. Alright, we're gonna stop here. Go around. Now we're gonna more. Hands like this, other robots have problems. So we're just gonna kind of do this. Like that. And just restrict down this way. Like these things are way a little bit. They're trying to stuff. Okay. Do restrict this way. Have a little space under the deck. Yeah, these things are way. Now come under the deck. This way. This part's a little bouncy, so we're gonna let it do its thing here. Okay. Stopping it there. Going around this way. Okay. And that should complete it. Right there it's saying save. So we're gonna save it. We want to create a no-go, so we gotta hit create and then no-go. Pull, blah, blah, blah. Alright, so we have to get to the no-go site. So we're gonna do that first. So start mapping a no-go zone. And ready to go. And double tapped, and we can save it. There's no-go zone. Okay, since now we have 1 and 2, we have to create a channel that will connect various areas. So we're just going to hit start.
Start mapping a channel.
And do. There's a channel. So now that allows us to go from area 1 to area 2. Now, admittedly, that was one of the more frustrating setup processes that I've gone through with a robot mower. And really, I want to say it's the RTK sensor. It was not liking my Wi-Fi for whatever reason, where I always put my RTK sensors. So the ability that Motion has to have it separate from the base station itself allowed me to move it closer to do an update, to then bring it back to where every other RTK sensor has worked. And once I got that update, it worked fine. But just know that was super frustrating, even for me, who's done 2 other ones of these and kind of does a lot of tech related stuff. So forewarning with that going forward. But let's start talking about what this really does, and that's cut grass. And one of the things that I like about the Yuka Mini is that it will cut grass in different directions. So one time it'll go 90, 180, one time it'll do diagonal. The only thing that I could see with this is that it seems to favor the diagonal rather than the straight left to right or up and down. I wish it didn't do the diagonal quite as much, only because that one takes longer than north to south, west to east. But the fact that it does it means it's not going to be making ruts, and if you have any stray grass that shows up, it will cut them in the next pass. With that said, let me show you some examples of what it can do. You can clearly see where it's done, where it hasn't done. It's got nice striping. A little rutting there. Watch it do the turn. Alright, it hit a paver that it's having trouble getting around. There we go, cuts back over, and then swings back to make sure that it gets everything. Like it kind of missed a bunch there. first time, but the rows themselves look pretty good. There's a few tall standing tufts here and there, but that's actually just going over at one time. So I'm sure if I hit the other direction, it should be okay. Now, as I mentioned with the battery portion, it does take longer to cut my lawn. This is actually one of the longest robots to fully cut my lawn, and I went with the slightly larger model that they had for the battery size. Again, not a bad thing, but want you to be aware of that. And even though it overlaps itself, I have found not mohawks of grass like I've seen with my first robot mower, but there have been a little more grass standing up than I thought it would leave behind. So food for thought with that. But with cutting examples out of the way, what's next? Well, I set up 2 different zones. The YUKA Mini can handle up to 15 unique zones. That's all done through the application. Let me show you. This is the Mammotion app for the YUKA Mini robotic lawnmower. Here you can see this is what things look like when you first start them up. You might have seen it lose connection and then reconnect. Well, that's because of my position for filming versus where the robot actually is. And it's raining today, so I will not be going outside to film close to the robot. However, if we start up on the top here, we're going to come over to the left-hand side. This is a notifications area. So if I click the bell, it's going to tell me things that have been happening. So right here, I had a task failure because I turned something off because I was getting a rain delay, and I'll be getting rain all week. So rather than waiting for that to finish up, I'll go back and do that a little later. At the top here, we can see our Bluetooth connectivity, our Wi-Fi connectivity, and to the right of that, our positioning and then battery charge. If I select this option, it's going to give me a lot of information. Right here, you could see 4G and Bluetooth, nothing there because, well, I'm not close enough to the unit to actually have that do anything. And then I've got my Wi-Fi connection, which is green. Clicking on any of these with a little arrow will give you more information about something that's happening, but there's a lot of sensitive information, so I won't be showing you that. There is a refresh button in the upper right-hand corner, and if we come down to our positioning information, so positioning status, good, satellites, it gives us a lot of information that I've seen done better in other applications because R31, BL, blah, blah, like these mean nothing to me. Are these individual satellites? This part could be done better, but just know green is good. Signal strength, R good, B bad. Position mode, I have antenna over data link. If I select this, I could do antenna over internet or iNav service. I just left it at what the default was. And here is our connected status. Again, clicking on this will allow me to select the RTK system. And then we have our POS, vision, good, brightness, good. So we have my RTK sensor located in a good spot. Coming down, if I hit this start button, I will be able to start a new task. I can also select start a new task right here, or as you can see, it flashed up, I have tasks that are scheduled. So in that case, I would hit the 3 dots in the right-hand corner, which will allow me to create a new task once this loads up. So right here, you could see the 2 tasks that I have set up already, and it gives you what's going to happen. So area 2, Tuesday, Thursday, area 1, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. What's happening? It's mowing, and then an estimate countdown until this event happens. This one's 17 hours. This one is a day and 17 hours until the next instance. If I click the 3 dots, it will allow me to enable or disable, rename, edit, run it now, copy it, or delete it. If I select edit, this will bring me into what do I want to do? So task area, I would select all, one, or none, settings, random cut pattern, zigzag, no-go zones, perimeter. These are all things that are accessible from another location, so I'll show you that when we get there. But we could also select new, and that brings us in here and kind of walks us through all that again. So we're gonna back things out and actually select my YUKA Mini here, which you kind of saw. Here is the map of my yard, and it zooms in right where the Mini is. Hypothetically, if you had a really big lawn and you couldn't find where your robot mower is, simply select there and it will get you right where that is. You can also select that, and if you are not currently charging, it would tell your robot to charge. You could see I have the RTK right there. There's the base station, and that's a no-go area. You might also see between areas 1 and 2, I have a little overlap. And I like the fact that I was able to do that because I kind of had a strip there, and it was annoying me. So I'm happy that I was able to bring that together a little more. On the bottom here, we have the ability to send this out to start mowing right now. I have the ability to do manual controls, and then I have tasks, which is what we were looking at before, and then map. If I select map, I can select mow, I could select manual, I could select create. If I do this, I have create an area, create a no-go zone, create a channel, or create a pattern. I do not have a big enough yard to really do a pattern, but if I wanted to, I could select this, and I have some predetermined patterns that you could do. So some alphabet, some balls of sorts, some Christmas. You also have the ability to locate and then manually turn on the lights of your robot from that view. Now, I will come back into tasks and show you a little more of what you could do here. So we talked about the renaming. When I was in the edit, you could see the area that we wanted to do and then settings. There actually have been quite a few firmware updates that have pushed new features to the robot mower in this particular area. So I wanted to actually take the time to show you what they were right before I put this out, because that's when they came out. So starting at the top here, we now have a task speed, which will allow us to change how fast the mower actually moves as it's cutting our grass, which is a great feature to have, and not one that I saw on my second mower, but did have on my first mower. So I do like that. Next, we have path spacing. By default, it is set at 3.9 inches, but you can change the spacing. So that overlap that it's going to do, new in our cutting path mode, I'll show you these later, but now we have a adaptive zigzag, meaning it will do the best it can to optimize things, but it won't look as clean. And then we've got our chessboard, and you can change your cross-hatching, which is something that was not there before. No-go zone mowing laps. Well, now you can select how many laps around a no-go zone area that it will do in order to make sure that everything in that area is cut. And then last for the major updates was the path order, zigzag, which is your primary cutting region, versus perimeter first. I do make a specific call out to the fact that it does the internal first and does not do the exterior cutting path first. So trimming along the edge, which is what I'm more accustomed to. Last update, they included that, which is great to see that they're continuing to push updates to this mower. But now back to the review from the past. Now, cut path, you can randomize, which will mean every time it goes out, it will do a slightly different pattern, which I greatly appreciate because that means you're not going to get ruts in your lawn from it going and doing the same thing over and over. You can customize. Well, here I could see, watch the patterns as they change. I could say go out. So I could create a pattern. Monday does this, Wednesday does this, and Friday does that, if I wanted to. You could also do optimal, where the robot will pick the best path for it. However, keep in mind, if you do this way, it will use the same pattern over and over and over again, which means that it will create ruts in your lawn. So I personally would leave it on random. You also have what type? Zigzag, where it will go one way, left and right, or you can do checkerboard, where it'll go both ways. And you can kind of see it gives you a visualization as to what that's going to look like. No-go zone mowing, I have this off, but if you enable it, the robot shall not mow in the inner perimeter of your no-go. So this would be trying to keep it from getting too close to your no-go areas. Here we have perimeter mowing. This will be the robot goes out and mows 2 times around the perimeter of your yard. Personally, I leave this off for my bigger yard because I just go and hit that with the weed whacker. But I also find it weird that Mammotion chooses to do this perimeter mowing after it does the actual mowing. I've tested other mowers and they do that first. Kind of wish it would have done that, but that could be changed in a firmware update or just an option here. Mammotion, I'm looking at you. Here we have obstacle detection mode. I have it on standard, but you could put super sensitive or off altogether. For the most part, I have found that standard is enough. And then we have our start progress. Well, at what point do you want the progress to start? It's an odd setting, honestly. And we're going to go back. Coming down, it shows you the total square footage that will be mowed because it is going to double back on itself because it overlaps as it goes, which is nice. And then total runtime. You can ignore that. You could save or you could schedule. So if I hit schedule, it's going to allow me to pick the days of the week and what time it starts. Now I could do that weekly, or I could pick a fixed interval where this happens on this day, this happens on this day. There's a lot of customization in this that I greatly appreciate from Mammotion, just with the basic yard work. Now, there are a few other things that do pop up when you are using the Mammotion app, but the mower has to be out and actually running, and that will appear over on the right-hand side. That is the ability to switch between the map view, which you're looking at right now, and then a live POV mode of the robot roaming around your yard as it's doing its cutting. I think that's actually one of the cooler things that I've seen a robot lawnmower do. In fact, you could use it kind of as a sentry mode, put it in POV mode and drive it around using the toggles. Now, when I said the toggles, you've got your manual toggles left and right here. They're pretty much like joysticks that you could drive this out and about. But right now it is raining outside, so I really don't want to do that. But I might be able to hit the POV right here, and there you could see a live feed from my yard. Now, from here, I could select mow. I could do manual mow, which I have to be close enough to do Bluetooth, but this will allow you to drive it around like an RC car and mow a specific area, which could be helpful for getting this bit right in front of the mower, because whenever it leaves the base station, it really doesn't do right in front. Now, I am losing connectivity quite a bit, but that is partially because I am on the interior of my house with my phone, and the exterior, it is raining and wet, and it's just not a great time to be filming, but that's what happens. From this screen here, in the upper right-hand corner, if we want to contact support, we've got live chat, hotline service, and then upload your log. So if there's anything that they need from your robot, you could provide it that way. We've got our settings. This is going to be the settings for the robot itself. Here we've got our device information, which will show you the device name, the model, sharing management, so if you allow other people to share your robot with you, robot's firmware version, firmware release notes, network settings, uploaded logs, factory reset if you need to, maintenance, and then warranty, and then unbind from your account. Here you can see, as of filming this portion, this is the total square footage, this is the hours run that it's done, and then activation time, and then blade remaining. If I want to, I can say set a reminder, and then I could set an hour. Now, there are other companies that actually pre-program that for you, so I kind of like that Mammotion allows you to pick your own blade renewal depending on type of grass and all that you might have. Coming down, we have our network settings, recorded tasks. So you can see yellow means it didn't get to finish it because of an item, but we've got completed, so start time, end time, task, area, type of task, completion, all that fun stuff. That's all under our records. Uploaded log, I don't have any, but we could take pictures, add them there. It's very helpful. Here we have our settings for the robot or the app. If I change it to the app, we have map layer settings, unit, and then upper speed for manual control. So you could toggle that to shift it around. For my map, I've got default map style or satellite, which is pretty cool, but does kind of show your actual location, so it won't be showing you that. If we come back to the robot, we've got our manual operation, which will bring us into the toggle mode here, which again, we're not going to do. We've got our no mowing on rainy days. I have that turned on because, well, actually right now it is raining pretty bad. So this has been very helpful, but it also means the robot's not going to go out anytime soon. We've got our turn mode, which will be zero turn or multi-point. So zero turn, it will use both wheels and turn itself on a dime, while the multi-turn kind of moves in a pattern to get it to the next layer. I will say, as far as the zero turn goes, this is much gentler than other zero turn options that I've tested before. And then we've got our direct for recharge mode. It'll take the beeline shortest to get to your charger or follow the perimeter so you don't have to worry about ruts. And most of Mammotion stuff here, it will give you a visual example, so you don't have to worry if you don't understand what it's saying. Here we've got our side LEDs. Well, these are the lights on the side of the mower. I like to keep all the lights off to keep my mowers from being noticed by people. So that's on and off. Auto light, that's if it's mowing in the evening and things get dark, it will turn the front lights on, allowing the mower to see. Non-work periods, well, for me, I do not like it running overnight because the blades get clogged up with damp grass. But for me, I have it set for non-working period. I can edit this. So select when does the work stop, and then when can it pick up again. So for me, about 8 o'clock, and then picks up again at 10:58 the next day. Delete a map. Well, if you want to, you can delete your map right there. And then we have our positioning mode. Again, antenna over data link, antenna over internet, or the nav, and that brings us back to here. We're gonna pop back out. We're gonna come back in here, come down to our relocate charging station. Selecting this will allow you to move your charging station to a different location where it will realize it has moved, but also realizes where the charging station is. And then voice settings. Do you want male, do you want female, or do you want off? In my case, I didn't want it talking at me. It still makes the samurai sword sound when things start up, but you don't have to have it talking to you. Now, that was all under our robot and then also our settings. But if we bring this over, there are two pieces to this. First is the robot, next is the RTK sensor. At the top, just like we could before, Bluetooth connection to the sensor, RTK station is bad, Wi-Fi is good, and then our positioning. If I select the sensor itself, unlike the robot, there's nothing I can actually click on except to like rename this. So it's just the positioning for that. If I come down to the bottom, that was under our devices. I can select services, which will allow us to request help, access the store. You've got your academy. This is going to be stuff from Mammotion, kind of helping you. What do I need to do? So maintenance, Luba, here we go. It's going to give you a bunch of information. I kind of like this section a lot. You've got video tutorials, user manuals, mower care, winter maintenance, FAQ, and about us. All of that in these services. They're not actually really trying to sell you anything here, which is a refreshing change to the services area within an app for a smart device. Coming over to me, we've got device management. I can see the two items that I currently own, find my device, connections to smart platforms like Alexa and Google Home. We've got our guide, which you can turn off after you've used it one time, system language, upload logs, and about Mammotion. And then up at the top would be your username and email, which were conveniently out of frame for this. But that has been everything that you can do for the YUKA Mini in the Mammotion app. Now, we've got all of our basics out of the way. What's next? For me, that is testing. I want to make sure that this does exactly what it's supposed to do.
The robot tilted. Task paused. The front wheel lifted. Continue working.
Audio, and I will admit this robot is extraordinarily quiet. During my testing, I got it up to about 63 decibels, but it would normally average between 60 and 61 decibels. Really, that's going to be something that you're not going to notice while it's out there cutting your lawn. In fact, you're really going to hear it cutting the grass more than it's spinning around. So that sound you hear is actually more of it nipping the grass. Up next, that's obstacle avoidance. This is supposed to do 200 plus objects. I want to see how well it does. Let me show you what that was like. Tennis ball is too small. Yeah, cable, hose, bungee. It's too low to the ground. It doesn't see it. Oh, it sees that and doesn't like it. Okay. That's high enough. Not bad. The bunny lives. All right, so the boot wasn't even really 100% directly in its path, and it still decided to go around it, which is good. I don't have it. I don't know where my logs went. Again, not directly in the path, and it still chose to go around it. Yeah, it still sees it. It's giving it a wide berth. Yeah, it wasn't even really gonna come right at me. And it's going around. So better than some, but not 100% what I was looking for. Is it terrible? No. Just use this as a data point so that you know what to expect or what to leave or what to move from your yard. Next, hill. This is supposed to be able to handle a 27-degree 50% hill. Let me show you the closest that I could get and testing of this. So we're just gonna grab our mower, go straight up. Watch for any slippage. I don't see any slippage. We're gonna swing it around and have it come down. No problems. All right, so we're gonna try and bring it back up and kind of serpentine a little bit. See if I can force it to slip. I mean, it does pretty good, even there. You can see it's a fairly steep hill. Oh, there's a big rut there. I'm gonna try and drive it through that. There we go. I have no idea what's there, but I got it stuck. All right, so up there where I had it, it's, there we go. We're gonna get it around that. It's actually a fairly large hole that is filled in with some rocks, because this is not exactly my property. It's an in-between kind of egress between myself and my neighbor, which I tend to use for testing. But there you go. That was hill ascent and descent with the YUKA Mini. Now, I mentioned having a physical rain sensor on a robot mower is a must in my book, but how well it performs is also important. In the case of the YUKA Mini here, light rain and misting, it did not send the robot back to the base station. I kind of wish it did, but the way that these sensors work is a piece of water has to come across both sensors to create a circuit, and then it knows. So if you get average rain, normal rain, it will send it back. In fact, I dumped a watering can on it, as you can see here, and once it hit that contact sensor, it went back to the base station because it knew that it was raining out. Speaking of rain / night mowing, around me in the Northeast, what happens is grass gets warm during the day, and then when it cools off at night, it gets moisture. Yes, it can go out and rain, and it can cut your grass at night. In fact, here you go. You could see it roaming around at night as it's cutting my lawn. Does it do it? Yes. Is it a good idea? In my opinion, no, and should be realistically avoided. And the reason for that is grass sticks to the underside of the mower. And if you're trying to make this as hands-free and cleaning-free as possible, having wet grass stuck to the bottom of your mower is not a good thing. Now, you saw in its dry state after the fact and after I did some cleaning, but here you could see what it actually looks like right after it was wet and how much grass was actually stuck and clogged under this. That's another thing. Underneath the floating cutting deck, grass can accumulate there, which weighs down the cutting deck, which prevents it from doing what it's supposed to do. And around the cutting disc itself, you can get a thick buildup of grass because, one, there's the protective layer there, but you get this colony of grass that you can scrape off in large chunks. And it's not a good idea. If you can avoid it, don't cut at night or in the rain. Now, even with a lot of things to like about the YUKA Mini, with any device, there are going to be some cons to consider. The cons that I found for the YUKA Mini, first being was the time it took to cut the grass. Yes, this is a smaller robot mower. However, I have tested another robot mower about the same size for the cutting deck, and it did it in less time and had less problems with slippage with the wheels, because that was a front-wheel drive versus a rear-wheel drive mower. Next, tall grass can get stuck around the blades themselves, but that's common with this type of mower, but can also get stuck under the cutting deck. And the cutting deck, unless you completely remove it, is not going to be super easy to clean. Keep that in mind. As I mentioned, the wheels. Because this is a rear-wheel drive mower, and this is the second version of a rear-wheel drive mower that I've tested, I have noticed some shortcomings with this type of propulsion system in that it's not evenly weighted. So you will notice slippage. Is it terrible? No, but just know, if you're wanting that four-wheel, you might want to think of the big brother to the YUKA Mini, because Mammotion makes a four-wheel drive system. Next, setup. Because of that RTK issue, this was the worst setup process that I have ever gone through. I mean, to the point where I had considered returning the mower. So let my lessons learned, help you make an informed decision in that if your RTK sensor is having problems connecting to Wi-Fi, thankfully, Mammotion gives you a separate power supply for the RTK sensor. Move it closer to your house, move it closer to your Wi-Fi, set that up, download the firmware, and then place it where you like. That will probably work for you. Just know that was one of the most frustrating things that I have ever set up in all of my setups that I've done for tech reviews. Some smaller annoyances or cons for me. You can only turn off the side lights. In most robot mowers that I've had, you could turn off all the LEDs. So yes, there's 2 side lights, but there's also the navigation and this extra one up here. You cannot turn these off. I want this completely hidden in my backyard when I am not actually using it. And the other 2 mowers that I've tested were able to do that. Next, the emergency stop button, which I just hit. Water pools around it. There's no drainage really, and I get it. They want you probably to use the house for it, but this is IP6 rated, so it can survive perfectly fine. I would like to see some channeling to help water not pool around the stop button. One other thing, and the other robot that I tested and liked had this too, it's a cutting window rather than a set start time and end time. So you set up a between, in my case, 11 a.m. and 8:45 p.m. you can go out and cut, and it will cut in that window rather than saying start at this time and you keep doing it until the job is done. It's a preference thing, but something I wanted to bring to your attention. One other thing I wanted to bring to your attention, there is actually a handle to grab this right up front here, but it's past the grass combers, as I'll call it. Not the best placement, in my opinion. In fact, I didn't think it had a handle at all. And then I went back and looked at the manual and saw that it was just past the grass combers. Don't particularly like that. And last, when I was doing my object avoidance testing, I did notice that objects that were lower to the ground were harder for this to see. What does that mean? If you have a pet and pet leavings in your backyard, well, that means this isn't going to see it, and it's gonna go over them and get stuck in the treads or up in the blade. And this is already a little trickier to clean than some of the other mowers that I've tested because of all the parts under there. So keep that in mind and make sure your backyard is pristine. Overall, if you're done mowing your lawn and want to give yourself back some time or save a little money on a Yuka style robo mower, then the Yuka Mini could be the robot mower you've been looking for, as long as you have a lawn size that works for it. If not, you might want to think about getting the larger Yuka robot mower, which honestly I had considered getting because of the self-emptying bag, but could not justify it for the size of my lawn. I have learned a lot of lessons through my years of testing 3 unique robot mowers, so let my addiction help you make a better decision for yourself. With everything the Yuka Mini can do, despite what I will justifiably say was the worst setup process that I have ever gone through, this has been a solid robot mower, and I can recommend it with the caveat of paying attention during that setup process. This has been a champ for me so far and continue to do so. If this sounds like the robot mower you have been looking for, I will have a link where you can pick one up for yourself in the description area below. If you appreciate the time and effort that goes into making comprehensive videos like this, make sure to hit the like button to help other people find the video as well. If you like what I'm doing here and want to be notified of my next review, hit that subscribe button. Still not sure if this is the right robot mower for you? On screen now, you'll see the 2 other reviews that I've done to help you make a more informed decision for yourself.